Hi friends, I'm Lily. Welcome back to Lily's Crochet Cottage. I was browsing a little antique shop in town last Tuesday, and I noticed something wonderful. Right there in the front window, the spot usually reserved for the most expensive polished furniture, was a stack of soft, ivory crochet blankets and a row of handmade lace doilies. It made me realize that something special is happening in the world of home decor. We're moving away from that showroom look and heading back toward a home that feels like a hug. Today, we're exploring timeless cottage style, specifically how vintage crochet and farmhouse charm are making a massive comeback. We're going to look at why these old-fashioned details are suddenly exactly what our modern homes need, and I'll show you how to use them room by room to transform a plain space into a soulful sanctuary. Before we dive in, I'd love to know, do you have an old handmade piece in your home? Maybe a crochet blanket, a lace doily, a quilt, or a little thrifted treasure that still makes the room feel more like you? Every time I see my grandmother's pineapple stitch runner on my sideboard, I feel like the room just settles down and breathes. You might have noticed that for a long time, home decor became a bit gray. Everything was sleek, matched, and, if I'm being honest, a little cold. But lately, there's been a beautiful shift. People are rediscovering that visual comfort is just as important as having a sturdy roof. The reason vintage crochet and farmhouse textiles are returning isn't just about nostalgia. It's about softening the hard edges of modern life. In a world of glass screens and plastic surfaces, a cream cotton crochet throw with a raised shell stitch texture provides a sensory relief. We're seeing a return to collected, not cluttered styling. Homeowners are choosing handmade pieces over mass-produced items because a handmade item tells a story. It suggests that someone sat down, took their time, and created something meant to last. Especially in smaller homes or tiny cottage spaces, these textures add a layer of soul that you just can't buy at a big box store. Let's start in the heart of the cottage, the living room. If you have a sofa that feels a bit too modern, or maybe a chair that's seen better days, vintage textiles are your best friend for a quick home improvement. I love to take a 1970s granny square Afghan, perhaps one in faded sage, mustard, ivory, and dusty rose wool, and drape it over the back of a neutral sofa. It immediately breaks up the solid block of color and adds what I call visual weight. For your coffee table or end tables, try placing a white lace doily with pineapple motifs beneath a simple milk glass lamp. This isn't grandma's dusty parlor style, it's about protection and beauty. The lace protects the wood while adding a delicate, scalloped edge that catches the light. If you're worried about it looking too old-fashioned, try layering. Put a modern wooden tray on top of a larger handmade runner. It creates a bridge between the old and the new, making the room feel personal and curated. The kitchen is where farmhouse decor really shines, but it needs to be practical. One of the best cottage kitchen ideas is to use crochet and lace where they can actually work for you. Have you ever considered crochet shelf trimming? It's a tiny detail, but a narrow strip of lace or crochet pinned to the edge of a pantry shelf or a china cabinet can transform the whole look of your dishes. It frames your ironstone pitchers and blue willow plates so beautifully. I also love using handmade crochet pot holders in butter yellow or sage green cotton. Instead of hiding them in a drawer, hang them from an old wooden peg rail. Pair them with a woven willow market basket and a few mason jars. It turns everyday kitchen storage into a decorative display. This is a perfect example of an affordable home upgrade. It costs almost nothing, especially if you find these pieces at a thrift store, but it makes the room feel cared for and functional. In a cottage bedroom, the goal is always rest. This is where we can really embrace the granny chic aesthetic. Nothing says comfort like a hand-stitched patchwork quilt paired with a crochet bedspread. If you have a small guest room, try using a chenille bedspread as your base layer and fold a vintage crochet blanket at the foot of the bed. It adds that heirloom feeling that makes guests feel instantly welcome. For the bedside table, think about using embroidered linens. A vintage linen runner with blue forget-me-not stitching adds a soft touch next to a stack of old books and a teacup. This layering of textures, the weight of the quilt, the softness of the crochet, and the crispness of the linen creates an atmosphere of peace. It makes the bedroom feel like a sanctuary, away from the busy world. One of the biggest questions I get is, Lily, how do I use these items without my small home feeling cluttered? The secret is intentionality. In a tiny home or a small apartment cottage, you want to use your vertical space. Crochet hanging baskets are a wonderful solution for this. You can hang them in a corner to hold yarn, mail, or even small potted ivy. It adds greenery and texture without taking up any precious floor or counter space. When you're out thrifting or at estate sales, look for hidden potential. A stained vintage tablecloth might still have perfectly beautiful lace edges that you can cut off and repurpose as curtain ties or pillow trim. We are finding new life for these old treasures, and that's the heart of the cottagecore movement, valuing what we already have and making it beautiful again. Before we wrap up, I want to share a few tips to keep your vintage home decor looking fresh rather than musty. First, keep your color palette cohesive. If your crochet pieces are mostly creams and pastels, stick to those tones throughout the room to avoid a chaotic look. Second, balance the soft with the hard. If you have a lot of lace and crochet, make sure you have some sturdy wood or metal elements, like a primitive wooden bench or an iron bed frame, to anchor the room. And finally, always make sure your vintage textiles are clean and well-maintained. A freshly laundered, neatly folded quilt looks like a treasure. A dusty, wrinkled one looks like an afterthought. Love your pieces, and they will love your home back. I hope these ideas gave you a little spark of inspiration for your own home. Creating a cozy cottage isn't about how much money you spend. It's about the love and the handmade details you tuck into every corner. If you enjoyed our time together today, I'd love for you to join our little community. Please hit that like button and subscribe to Lily's Crochet Cottage for more nostalgic decorating, thrifted finds, and gentle homemaking. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video.